And here he is, Kevin Costner,
I got to
stopping by.
turn this up a little bit for
Up,
me.
up, up, up. Good. Can you hear? You good?
Yeah, there we go.
Better?
Okay.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How's Radio Row treating you?
Wow. I mean, this is just a giant mess down here. This is just a lot of stuff going on.
How'd you like to do this for 5 days?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know. But how'd you like to do something else for 5 days? Not a bad thing. You know, your love. You're talking about it.
Yeah, no kidding. Is the voice starting to go a little bit?
Yeah, I lost it. I was supposed to play on the Kimmel show about 2 weeks ago. Lost my voice a week before, and it still hasn't come back. You can kind of hear it.
Yeah, that's true. You know, everybody thinks Kevin Costner, you know, the great actor, the accomplished actor, the Academy Award winner, whichever their favorite movie is. But, yeah, music has been a big part now for the last few years.
Yeah, it has. Well, for the last 9 years, it's taken us quite a few places. I've kept it kind of under the radar in the sense I don't talk about it a lot. The cat's a little bit out of the bag now. But we have like, 5 months ago I played at the Kremlin.
At the Kremlin.
Yes, I see. I just caught you, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
Like you mean the Kremlin?
Like a bunch of Russians.
Like in Russia?
Yeah, like they're looking up you, and I'm just as surprised as they are.
What's it like performing
You play
music
loud.
versus
You play really loud.
performing on the screen in front of cameras?
Listen, if you've ever imagined playing on stage in front of 20,000, 30,000 people, it's as good a feeling as you might guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
And I would think probably the only thing that comes close to some of the movies that we've seen you in, where you're performing in front of a lot of people in theory, in some of the sports movies that you've done.
Yeah. Well, the difference is with the music, at least, I'm playing original music. So that has to, I'm not going up and playing other people's music.
Mm-hmm.
Because the difference with music, people can turn around and walk away.
Right.
And so it's been kind of fun.
Kevin Costner joining us on San Diego Sports Leader, the Mighty 1090. We know we're on short time here. So unbeknownst to you the other day, we know that you're a Cal State Fullerton guy. We have multiple people associated with that program who have worked on this station or have listened to this radio station.
Right.
One being Phil Nevin and the other one being Mark Kotze.
Yeah.
So we have joked around this week about your involvement with Fullerton baseball.
Right.
Current preseason #1 ranking. Just tell us a little bit about being around the program and all the time that you spent there with Augie Garrido and some of the players.
Yeah, Augie, invited me back, and it was, wanted to be a player like that, like them. Never could be. We all grow up with a dream, and there's only a few guys like that, and, that actually, go to college with a dream of going to pros, and most just don't make it. Both those guys did. Wallach made it. And they both have great mentalities. I mean, I think Phil, I think he was coaching now.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprised, but I've maintained my friendships with that program. George Horton, who was Augie's assistant, is now coaching the Oregon thing, and I've gone up there and raised money for him. And Dave Serrano was an assistant coach, is coach in Tennessee. And, of course, Rick has now taken over the program of Fullerton. So those guys Augie needed those kind of players to take a little school. I mean, listen, when I went to Fullerton, it was $99 tuition.
Okay.
So those guys used to have to dress in the parking lot. It's not a joke. I walked a mile in the snow. Well, their program didn't have a lot, but what they had was they had players. And Augie, identified them. And those guys became, Golden Spike winners. And, I mean, think about how good they are.
And think about too that you on the bus with them. That's
Yeah.
right. You rode the bus with them when they would go to Omaha.
Well, they included me, and I always start with the coach. Even pro teams will ask me to work out with them, but I never listen to management. It always has to be, do the coaches want it, do the players want it? And those guys, they could have either not included me or included me. But they did. They shoved me out to short. They stood next to me. They let me play. When we played the Angels, they wanted me to play, at shortstop. That was a big moment for me, and I'll tell you, not because I played, but because there's some other college guy that played short that maybe is never going to play against a pro team, and that was his moment. And I'm very conscious of what they've done for me.
We're talking to Kevin Costner. The name of the movie is Draft Day, which is he is here to promote. Kevin Costner joining us on San Diego Sports Leader, the Mighty 1090. All week long I've walked around Radio Row, Kevin, and people have had this conversation that doesn't really have an answer, which is Peyton Manning the greatest quarterback of all time? It's an unanswerable question, I think, at least. So I will ask you, and I don't know if there's an answer to this. What's the greatest movie of all time?
Well, let's talk about Peyton a second. I met him as a young boy just for a second. I was making JFK down in New Orleans, right, and went over to meet Archie and his wife, and both Peyton and
Olivia?
What, Pat?
His wife, Olivia?
No,
Eli?
Eli. Were on their way out to go play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they were in, junior high. Peyton might have been his first year in high school. I don't know. And there was just a wisp, kind of like in Field of Dreams, just like a thing of smoke, a stranger in the crowd. They just went blowing by me, and I had dinner with Archie, and what a really terrific gentleman. And so I was really uncertain what kind of quarterback Peyton would be in the pros. Kind of a real mechanical throw, kind of a straight up thing, and I was really unsure. It just shows how well scouts are to know that he was the number one pick, but to see what's happened to him, and more importantly how he conducts himself, both him and his brother, really reflection of their parents. It's not boring. It's satisfying.
He does some commercials. He's done Saturday Night Live. How do you evaluate Peyton on screen?
I think he's good. I think he understands where the joke is, and I think he's living his life. And he stood up to the pressure, and I don't think anybody could have anticipated what would have happened in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody could predict that he turns a program around. They had to change the offensive scheme, no doubt, and that shows a lot about the coach. That egos laid down and understood that this system. So who's the greatest one? I don't know. No one ever wants to talk about Terry Bradshaw. I think he's an incredible Super Bowl quarterback. Joe Montana and Brady and Peyton, I think you're really talking about those guys. I've seen a lot of people play since the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen John Brody play. I've seen Fran Tarkenton. I've seen some really great quarterbacks. I saw, Peyton took him 6 years for that thing to roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we got 4 quarterbacks that come in and take their teams to the playoffs in their first year. So a lot of stuff is changing. As Kaepernick and Wilson and Luck.
Mm-hmm.
So no one's waiting around anymore.
Right. Do you have what's your favorite movie? Not of yours, just of all time.
Of all time?
Yeah.
Listen, I like the Godfather, and I like this movie that's on nobody's. I loved How the West Was Won. I saw it when I was 7 years old. I saw Jimmy Stewart in a canoe going across a lake that didn't have a ripple in these exotic clothes, meeting these exotic people, meaning Native Americans. And I thought, I'm going to do that. And I did. I went out and I built 3 canoes. By the time I was 18, I went down all the rivers that Lewis and Clark went down, and I ended up making cowboy movies.
How great is that? The name of the movie is Draft Day. It comes out in April. How did you prepare for this role? It is about an NFL executive, a general manager from the Cleveland Browns.
Well, I've had an opportunity to hear general managers on television for the last 15 years as sports knows no boundaries now, and the radios are inside. So I get to hear people talk, and I talked to a few before. But the script I knew was fairly authentic. The voice sounded like men talking.
Would you trade up if you were the Cleveland Browns this year? Because I believe that's the premise of the movie, correct? It's whether or not to trade up and get the number 1 overall pick?
I think trading up is always a really good idea because you can turn around and just trade that guy and get who you want.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get the best player you can, and you keep him or you use him.
The first movie ever made called Malibu Hot Summer, just out of curiosity. How did you get that role? How much did you get paid for that role?
Well, I was never paid for that movie. So
you were never paid?
So I never talk about it. So.
What was the first movie you were paid for?
The Big Chill.
The Big Chill was the first one?
Yeah.
Good for you.
How about that?
That's good. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Really, good luck with the movie. Draft Day is the name of it. You play an NFL general manager. The decision from the Cleveland Browns whether or not to trade up. You ever make it down to San Diego for Chargers games?
I haven't ever watched a game down there. No, but I don't like live games. I like it on television.
Well, I'm with you 100%. The owner might not like that, but I certainly appreciate
That's where I line up. I just prefer it on TV.
Well, thank you very much for stopping by. Truly, it is a pleasure and honor to have you on the program.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That is Kevin Costner stopping by. We will take a timeout. I am Darren Smith.